Ben Johnson, introduced yesterday as the head coach of the Bears. At least he walked into the building. Today is the press conference at, I think, noon Eastern, 11 Central. Here's Ben Johnson in the building addressing the employees of his new team.
Everyone get back to work. Listen, thank you so much. My family and I, we are beyond excited. This is exactly where we wanted to be. This is exactly where we wanted to be.
Where we want you.
This is going to be a challenge. I am well aware of that. I know what this division's about. And this is exactly where we want to be. We're going to go after this thing, and it's going to take all of us in this room. It's going to take this locker room. It's nothing more important than that locker room and us serving that locker room and those players. All right? They need to understand that, and they need to feel that from us every single day. And if we do that, the wins are going to come. The playoffs are going to come. All right? Can't wait to get to know you guys, and thank you so much for the warm welcome. Thank you.
For most people, that was the first time we've ever heard the voice of Ben Johnson, because when you have that secondary role in Detroit, it's Dan Campbell that's front and center. It's Dan Campbell who's up there doing the press conferences and get carried on shows like this. So we'll hear a lot from Ben Johnson today. And it's funny, too, to see a guy that you're so used to seeing with a hat.
Yeah, with the hat, right. I say
the hat's off, and it's a different human being.
Seriously, it is. It is always funny to see coaches, outside of their element. That's the look you're accustomed to seeing with Ben Johnson. But kind of like what I said with Kevin O'Connell, this one is another one where it's like, duh. Like, yes, like I applaud the Chicago Bears. I couldn't be happier for them. And you know my thoughts on Ben Johnson. I hold him in the same regard, right up there with Kevin O'Connell, Shanahan, McVay, those type of people as far as offensive minds. Andy Reid, Sean Payton, he's right there with those guys. I thought he was the best offensive coordinator to come out to be a head coach candidate since McVay and Shanahan in the 2017 year. He is special. And he's got a team in Chicago that's got potential. He's got a quarterback. They need to invest in the quarterback. What a better way than do that than get the best available offensive mind that's out there in football? The Bears, as we know, I think a lot of coaches look at it and go, man, it's a storied franchise that hasn't had a lot of success. I'd love to be there. He said, this is exactly where I want to be. And I'm sure part of the reason is because they're just never up where you'd like them to be as far as a top-tier organization. And coaches like that usually because there's nowhere to go but up. And there's that potential. I think it's, a phenomenal hire. Not surprised by it at all. I had heard from people in the last week, and I'd been on TV and other places and said I thought it would happen. And when it finally broke through, I just kind of went, yes, Bears, way to go, way to get it done.
Yeah, but all year long you heard he wanted to go to the Jaguars too. So
well,
there's a certain amount of, I got to say I want to be where my feet are. Like, hello, city in which our band is playing tonight. We'd rather not be anywhere else. So I'm not all in with this idea. There's a salesmanship. I picked the Bears. I better act like the Bears are what I wanted all along. So I'm not ready to go there with you and say that he went to bed at night 5 years ago dreaming of coaching the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying that either. I'm not saying that either. But I think there's a lot of coaches that would like to be a part of a head coach of that organization. And then when you have a quarterback with as talent as Caleb Williams, that makes sense too. Yeah, I had heard rumors about Jacksonville, but over the last 7 to 8 days, it really started to hunker down to Chicago, and that's the way it was. And I do believe that's where he wanted to be. Maybe he wanted to see some things as far as front office and get to know that group all the way there. But damn, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be there to a degree. I mean, that to me was the spot. That's why we heard Bill Belichick and, he liked the Bears too. The roster, the team, it's all set up there though.
Right, but the problem is, and look, the teams that are looking for new coaches are bad teams. Belichick was talking about this yesterday. Another nail in his NFL coffin. All these grumble, all these teams that are looking for coaches, they're bad teams, and then they're disrupting the good teams by interviewing their coordinators and creating these huge distractions for the good teams. The bad teams are messing up the good teams. I mean, that was basically the gist of what he said on the Let's Go podcast. But he wasn't convinced the Bears would want him because they weren't going to overhaul the front office. And that was the thing that was the biggest wild card in all of this, because Johnson craves alignment with the front office because he saw what happened in Detroit, and he's seen what happened with other teams where it doesn't work. And the Bears have been dysfunctional since 1985-ish. The ownership has been dysfunctional over the years. And the challenge is to sell a guy on the idea that ownership is changing, that they fire a coach during the season, something they've never done before in the history of the franchise. That was a sign that things are changing. Offering him $13 million a year, if that's the number, and I think it is, that's a sign that things are changing. Because in past years, there are people around the league that were stunned. When I was bouncing that number off of general managers of other teams, like, hey, I heard it's 13. Have you heard it's 13? Hey, don't pay 13. You hear from somebody else, it's 13. You go home, they're paying him 13? Holy shit, they're changing in Chicago. So maybe that's something that's kind of oozing out of the organization now between Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles.
That's what I think
it is.
They are
changing.
Right.
George McCaskey changing. If we're ever going to – and, you know, it may be the kick in the ass that comes from the Lions finally coming out of hibernation and becoming a great team that the Bears are like, we better do the same thing. If the team we always make fun of, if they get their act together, then we're going to be the team everybody else always makes fun of. We better wake ourselves up here, because our punching bag is now punching us.
I think, you know, all of what you said there. I mean, and some of what I've said. But, yeah, I think Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles probably made him feel warm and cozy. I mean, you're 100% right in that, hey, just like we saw with Kevin O'Connell. I mean, it's all about getting to the second contract. That's what gives you, you know, the, like, oh, I'm set for life, right? I don't have to worry about anything after that. And like $13 million for what the coaches are right now, I don't think is all that crazy. If Matt Rule can get $9 million a year 3 years ago from the Carolina Panthers, and he's not Ben Johnson, I got no problem with this guy.
Well, that was an aberration.
Well, I know.
That was an aberration.
But also, as we know,
aberration.
it needed to be broken down too. The whole thing.
Right.
Yes. So
$8 million is the number right now.
Right.
Roughly speaking.
Right.
$8
for
million
you guys
on the way in.
Yep. I get
you.
you.
They blew it out by $5 million. Here, two things though. Two things. One. There's no guarantee Ben Johnson's going to be a great head coach. We've seen this time and again. It's like a first-round pick at quarterback. We got to see what he can do. We'll see. He gets the benefit of the doubt. He's got a great roster. We'll see what he can do. And secondly, the other byproduct of this is where I always wanted to be, and how it happened so fast after the Lions season ended. You're going to have some Lions fans that are pissed off, that are thinking he was secretly plotting this for weeks. It was just a matter of time that he gets unrestrained by the Lions and he runs down to Chicago, a division rival. I think from a chess versus checkers standpoint, I think it would have been smarter to just let things settle down a little bit. Let the Lions fans come to terms with the fact that their Super Bowl season that didn't happen is now gone, and their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are likely walking out the door. Let's just give them a little more time to work through anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And look, it spices up the rivalry from our perspective, but I think you're going to have a lot of pissed off Lions fans. That's something we haven't really talked about because it all happened so quickly. But if I was a Lions fan, I'd be pissed off because I'd be wondering, how long were you secretly planning a defection to one of our arch rivals when you should have been focused on scoring more points in the divisional playoff game? If I'm a Lions fan, I'm thinking that.
Yeah, well, listen, the division's gone up, and I think that we've seen this in other divisions in history when, the Bears are afraid of being left in the dust with the way the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions are all built right now. So there's like the desperation to the point that what you were talking about there. As far as the Lions stuff and that, we knew this was coming and this had a possibility forever. And if the Lion fans want to be mad at that, then that's just stupid. I don't know what else to say. If they want to be mad at somebody, get mad at the NFL because this is the way they set it up and this is the way they made it. All right, so I don't really care about any of that. Ben Johnson had to do what was best for him. The season was over. They lost with Detroit. It certainly wasn't the offense's fault. Jared Goff could have played better, but people were open everywhere. The interceptions and some of that, too, they're Jared Goff's fault. right? You could blame Ben Johnson for the reverse pass to Jamison Williams. I certainly, or the one he threw the interception in, I'll certainly blame him for that. But he's got to do what he's got to do, and he's got to move on to his next, challenge in life and start get that going. And so I'm not going to blame him. I understand there's going to be some Lion fans upset, but this happens every year, and this has been on the radar for more than a year.
It doesn't happen every year. It doesn't happen every year that a team in one division has a coordinator jump to another team in the division. It happens, but it doesn't happen every year.
I mean, I'm talking about it being a team that's in the playoffs and their coaches get interviewed.
Right.
All right? But, yeah, I mean, Dan Quinn went from Dallas to Washington last year, so it happens a lot. It happens all the time.
Well, it's happened 3 times that you can name. If you can even name 3.
I don't know.
Can you
I can't
name
even.
3? Can
I'm
you
not
name
gonna,
more than football historian?
I can't think of them right now. No, I mean, I'd have to think about it a little bit for a while. I certainly would.
And look, Dan Quinn leaving the Cowboys last year for Washington. I think Cowboys fans were happy about that after they gave up 48.
Well,
to the
Cowboy
Packers,
fans need to be questioned, as we know. They're not the most intelligent group out there right now.
Chris, all I'm saying is give it a couple days, not a couple weeks. Like, the Bears had kept everything very insulated and quiet. Johnson had kept everything very insulated and quiet. Give it 2 days. Wait till Wednesday. Wait till Thursday. You don't have to drop that turd in the Lions Punch Bowl on the Monday, less than 48 hours after they had their hearts ripped out. Yeah, and hey, it doesn't matter if you're joining the Bears
Mike,
anyway.
Come on, you're a businessman. You're a capitalist. Stop with all that crap. He wanted to take a job. Get out of here.
You can wait a couple.
Get out of here.
You can take the job. You can take the job.
Yeah, he did, and he's moving on.
All right, I'm just.
What do you want? He'll send flowers to the Lions fan base. Sorry, I was so awesome to you, and I left 48 hours later. Like, come on, get out of here.
If I'm
this
a
is
Lions
National
fan,
Football League.
I would be upset.
Great.
If I'm a Lions fan, I would be upset.
You're an irrational fan. We know that, so we don't really take that into account.
How many fans are rational? How many fans are rational?
A lot of them.
I'd like to give you a good example that would relate to the Giants if the Giants had a decent coordinator on either side of the ball in recent years. So it's kind of hard to do something.
I know. We've had it. I mean, we had Spags and won a Super Bowl when he left. Like we've had things. It happens.
He didn't leave for the Eagles.
We've had people, but I get that. So okay, it doesn't matter, division or not. Like, so it would have been so much better if he went to just some other team. We would have been like, oh, that's okay. That makes you feel better. Like, would have been better? Like, if he went to Jacksonville 48 hours.
I think it would make Lions fans feel better if he left the division. Of course it would. If he left the conference, of course he would. Teams think that way. Fans think that way. We don't want to deal with this guy.
No, but you're talking about your feelings are hurt. You don't like that he was lining this up. Like that was like some distraction or whatever.
Well, that's two different things. It makes it worse that it was a division rival. It makes it worse that it was the Bears. But the idea that this distraction consumes a part of the life of the guy who should be spending every waking moment getting ready for the next challenge in the postseason, that's a separate issue that is a product of the NFL's rules.
That's right.
And the only way you're ever going to begin to address that is if you have a moratorium on all interviews until after the Super Bowl. Now, even then, you're going to have back channel stuff, and you're going to have guys who are calling their agents, and their agents are going to be saying, here are the teams I think are going to be interested, here are the cities, and then the guy goes home, and the wife wants to know which cities, and they start doing research, and that takes up bandwidth when the guy should be fully focused on the task at hand. There's no way to stop that from happening. It's an upward mobility game, and if you're not a head coach, you want to be. You don't care what city it is. You want to be a head coach. You want to land in a spot where you think you're going to be successful, but where are my options going to be? And for a guy like Ben Johnson who's got multiple options, you're going to be spending time on it. And I think a lot of times these great coaches have the confidence / delusion / arrogance to believe that they can do it all. When you get into the postseason and it's code cracking time, I don't know that there's enough time to do both.
I know.
I don't know.
My
that
thing
it works
with it is
way.
we only talk about the teams that lose. That's what, like, we don't talk about that. Spags in an interview last week.
Any interviews.
So like
Cliff Kingsbury's not taking any interviews.
Okay, all right, that's one. But there's been others, so it's just it happens. I mean, we saw Spags. The Chiefs defense played great.
It's a distraction for everyone.
I get it, but again,
it's
you're blaming them for a system that you got to stop blaming them, and that's the NFL's fault, and they need to figure that out.
There still have been guys who have decided to wait until it was all Belichick, and I'm no Belichick fanboy. When he was with your Giants, Super Bowl 25, he didn't take a single interview until after the game was over. He had Tampa and he had Cleveland interested in him, and he refused to take any interviews until after the season over. Yeah, you need to read the post at PFT with Belichick's quote. You might feel differently about all of this because the coach can still say no, and the coach can still have the confidence that somebody's going to want me when this is all done.
Because he already knew he had those jobs.
Hang on. If you're confident enough in your abilities and the team that wants you is so freaking skittish and nervous that they're going to run to hire somebody else and they won't wait to do anything until after you're done, why would you want to coach that team? Why would you want to work for that organization? Again, it's bad teams that are looking traditionally for new coaches. And if a team isn't willing to wait until you finish the job you're doing now the right way, then why would you want to work for them? It's just a sign that it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, a lot of those things, again, like you just talked about, back channel, like Belichick knew he had those jobs. It was already like,
I don't think Belichick in 1991, who had never done anything as the head coach, was good enough to have a back channel job.
Oh,
I highly doubt.
It was only 30 years of his family being in the NFL and knowing people.
Wait a minute.
He didn't know back
He'd
channel.
never been a head coach.
Okay, he'd been around football. His dad had been around football. Like you're crazy. It's crazy. Okay. And teams panic and they don't know what to do or whatever else. Again, stop blaming the coach in this all that.
So you're saying he's a liar. You're saying he's a liar.
No, I'm not saying he's a liar.
When he said
he waited, but he's probably not telling you all of it, right? I mean, this is Bill Belichick. All of a sudden, we're going to just everything he says is honest and true now? Like,
well,
he's not going to tell you everything.
With my argument, yeah.
Right.
When it fits with my argument,
I know,
yeah,
of course. Now you're the biggest supporter ever. All right, yeah, great. Yeah.
Isn't that how the world works now?
No, stand your ground and be you. Don't just
Rome.
buckle to the argument just to make your argument win. Skip Bayless over there.
No, I'm thinking more. I'm thinking beyond. Don't, please don't compare me to him after recent allegations. Whether they're true or not, I wouldn't want to be compared to him anyway. I'm talking more bigger picture. What you do is fine. What I do is fine. If you do it, shame on you. Cherry picking arguments, different standards, moving targets, sliding goalposts. That's our life now. But anyway, they need to fix it. I don't think they care. I don't think they will. And even if you do, you can't eliminate the back channels that are going to be out there because the agents are heavily involved. And that item from Kalen Kaler of ESPN.com last week really pulled the curtain back on how much influence and sway the agents have over the process. It's something that 0.02% of the audience gives a crap about, but it really shows how dysfunctional teams stay dysfunctional because they let people like agents play kingmaker instead of having the conviction in their own beliefs as to what they need to do.
Agreed there. 100%. Agreed there. The agents, the big agents, have so much more power in the NFL and where players go and lining it up for their own interests. So, this guy could get paid here, but, wait, I have another guy that could have gone there, but I don't want him to go there because they're going to pay my one guy, and then that means the second guy won't get as much, so I'll find another spot for him so he can make a lot too, and my 3% is just that maximum value all the time, and, that is how it's done, and it's, a little crazy at times.
I mean, you've got agents who convince their clients to wait in line behind other clients that they got to take care of. You have an inherent conflict of interest. If you have multiple clients who are trying to become head coaches and there's only a few vacancies, how do you prioritize which one of your clients is the one that you're going to shop the most? It is inherently problematic, and the league just lets it happen.
Yeah.
And there's no regulation of it. And for any of these guys who are lawyers, if their state bars understood what was happening, they'd be investigated for ethical breaches. For some of these, if you're a lawyer and you've got two clients competing for the same job, you got a problem. But nobody seems to care about it. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.